email? What does it mean?
Communication is the imparting or exchanging of information or news.
The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
Conversation is the oral exchange of sentiments, observations, opinions, or ideas.
Forbes Books Radio presents The Conversation with Clinton M. Padgett.
Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Joey Havens, leadership expert, CPA, and author of Leading with Significance, How to Create a Magnetic People-First Culture. We pick up the discussion with Joey giving a real-world example of when leading with significance made a measurable impact.
Well, obviously, on our company, we transformed from a good company, a good culture, industry rate growth. We were the, up and down, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% growth. And we transformed all of that. We had the industry turnover, over 20% turnover in our team. How do you deliver amazing client service when you lose a fifth of your team every year? It's just impossible. And you're always training and onboarding.
Which is a hidden cost, by the way, to train and onboard.
It's more than hidden. It's very evident if you're replacing.
If you're a leader, it is.
Workforce on a regular basis. You'll start to see it. But yeah, there's costs there that you can't find on the income statement, but Correct. They're there and they're big. But yeah, that whole transformation, I lived through that, never realizing how dynamic it would be or how transformational it would be, how powerful it would be. But I would say, drilling down from that, it's the one thing I treasured the most as I retired. There were plenty of awards. There were plenty of things about Joey that I didn't really deserve. That was because of the team, because of the firm. They're in a box somewhere here at the house. They're not up on the wall. But what is very close to me that I keep on my computer, that I keep in my bookcase, is all the notes, all the emails, the text messages of people talking about how it transformed their lives, how it elevated them, how they reached their full potential. And I got one just recently from a young lady that had worked for our firm for probably 10, 11 years. I don't know exactly why she transitioned, but she went on to bigger and better things, which is part of your job. Elevate people, get them on the path they need to be. But she wrote me something that I had never even realized. She said, Joey, when I was a staff accountant, not only did you know my name, you always spoke to me, even if I was in the elevator. If somebody was with you, you always introduced me. And when it was called Twitter, I tweeted something and you reposted it and commented on it. She said, do you know what that did for my confidence as a young staff accountant? And then I had a partner retire. This is the last one I'll tell you. These always get emotional for me because it's really about leading with significance, living a life of significance. But I had a partner retire that worked under me for a number of years. And he sent to me, I have it on my computer, he took pictures. He had kept every little note, every little Post-it where I said, great job, Clint. Good job, Clint. Thanks, Clint. This got me out of amazing work, Clint. In other words, little things, little Post-its, things that I was trying to show my gratitude and appreciation, but I didn't think how big a deal it was. It gave him confidence. He saved every one of them. He had them in a box. Wow. He took a picture of them. It was just a box full of them. But I'll tell you this, it also made me realize how often I didn't do it. Because he was an amazing partner, just an amazing talent. But those are the things that bring real joy. And as you well know, I close the book talking about the difference in success and significance.
Yeah. Kind of in the middle of the book, you really talk a lot about this philosophy of fearless, unrivaled flexibility. And, what is that?
It starts with a mindset of excellence anywhere. In other words, if we really empower these people, if we have clarity, they can accomplish what we need done in a less time, in a different place. They don't have to work how we worked. So fearless, unrivaled flexibility was our way of attacking all of the guilt vampires. Now, the guilt vampires come from different places. They start internally. I'm a mother and I leave at 3:00 every day. I see my team members staying and I leave so I can pick my kids up. Now, I log back on maybe at 7 during busy season and do some more work, but people don't see that. And so I feel guilty walking out of the building. I get to go get my kids at 3 every day. That's a guilt vampire. And then you have the team members that say, oh, good to see you leaving early again. That's a guilt vampire. And so we called all that out. And that's why we came up with that fearless, unrivaled flexibility. We wanted people to be able to weigh in on, and it's not work-life balance. It's how you integrate your personal life and your career. And we all do it differently. And we all have different aspirations and how we want to work. And so when you understand that, and there's jobs that have to be client facing. We had jobs where you had to be on the client site every day, 8 to 5 was the job.
Right.
And we rewarded people for that, but we also learned that we could create shadows. In other words, we invested in somebody going out there and learning the job also, so that we could give that person flexibility so we could run somebody else out there to take their place. Well, did it duplicate some cost? Absolutely. But did it, in the long run, save us tons of money and raise our client level of service? Because again, you burn people out, that person leaves, now you're trying to train somebody to do that for the client. So it's just this pinwheel that you really have to have the faith that when you do what's right by people, it's going to come back to you over and over again.
Well, I'm sure that was when you first made that change. I'm sure there was some pushback from some people. And how do you get your team to buy into big changes? What's your approach to overcoming resistance and inspiring teams to embrace, which can be a big transformation?
Yeah, that one was a huge one. It started with, we communicated it 6 to 10 times, and the why are we doing this? We told stories of success. That's always important when you're really transforming. Your early success, absolutely celebrate it. Raise those people up, talk about it. I actually went around to every office, met with everybody from manager up. So anybody that was really managing over 4 or 5 people were in this meeting to talk about, this is what we see as best practices. This is why we're doing it. And I'm sitting here today looking you in the eye and telling you, they're going to make some mistakes and we're going to make some mistakes. And when we make them, we're going to give each other the benefit of good intentions. We're going to have clarity about expectations, and we're going to get back in the road again. And, that pendulum went everywhere. It went with people treating flexibility as a right, and they started taking advantage of that, and we would have to have those conversations. I did a firm-wide talk about, hey, we've gotten a little crazy. We're not honoring our communication to our team and making sure our clients are taken care of. We want you flexing, but you've got to own your responsibilities. So it's just like culture, transforming cultures one conversation at a time.
And I think in the book you talked about having these, you kind of mentioned middle management. You said the people love the idea and the leadership loves the idea, but it's getting that last group in the middle to buy in. And you talked about these meetings that you would have with them. And I recall a rope being involved.
Yeah, that's, and as you well know, in your business and what you've done, middle management will kill every project because they have to execute and deliver not only the why, but help people understand their role. But that goes back to the flexibility conversations. When I went to meet with everybody, I sat in that room with my hands were actually tied together with rope. And I would wait till somebody would finally ask me about the rope. And sometimes it'd go 20 or 30 minutes before they would ask. But the whole point was, my hands are tied. We have rolled this out. And unless you believe in it, unless you try to execute around it, we're going to fail. It'll fail. My hands are tied because it's in your hands. And so I really it was very visual. People talked for weeks after that and really years after that, how effective, how it impressed on them, hey, this is my responsibility. Joey can't make this happen.
Right. Trust plays a role in that. You talked about it a little bit earlier. And so what are some effective ways that as leaders you can build and maintain trust within your teams?
Well, number one is back to magnetic energy. Secret number two is trust first. If we're not vulnerable enough to trust and trust first and demonstrate that we're trusting, people aren't going to trust. I mean, that's where it really gets its origin. I mean, we know all the things around trust about being credible, doing what you say you're going to do and all of those things, but you still can't make people trust you. And I believe the thing that lights the fire is when leaders trust first and continue to give the benefit of good intentions, realizing that probably more often than not, when people fail, it's because there weren't clear expectations delivered. There were a lot of assumptions. Back to your quote, there was a lot of assumptions about the communication.
Right.
I can promise you, early in my career, I was the champion of fuzzy agreements.
I like that. That's a new term for me, fuzzy agreement.
Yeah, I learned that that's not a good thing to do. I actually had a personal growth coach that taught me that, and that was his term. I've never forgotten it. He said, Joey, you're running around here, you're making a bunch of fuzzy agreements. You're telling people you need something next week. They're thinking they have to Thursday, and you're meeting with a client on Tuesday morning. Yep. That's a fuzzy agreement.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, black and white is your friend, gray is the enemy. So, you're talking earlier about intentions, and I think that's interesting. There was a survey done by U.S. News and World Report. I think it was 1997. And they interviewed a bunch of people in the U.S. and they asked them the following question. So I'm going to give you a list of people and I want you to tell me what you think their chance of getting into heaven is. And clearly it was 1997 because the people, there was like Bill and Hillary Clinton. There was Michael Jordan, his teammate, which had the lowest score of everybody, Dennis Rodman, Oprah Winfrey, all these people, right? And so they ranged, I think, from 38% for Dennis Rodman up to Oprah, I think, had 68%. And then they said, okay, what about Mother Teresa? And so I'm thinking, all right, Mother Teresa, nobody's going to give her a perfect score, but let's at least go 97, 98%. And it was 79%. 79%. So it's a tough crowd, right? So 79% of the people interviewed thought Mother Teresa only had a 79% chance of getting into heaven. There was actually one person who scored higher than Mother Teresa at 87%. And that was the person being interviewed. They gave themselves a better chance of getting into heaven than Mother Teresa. And there's no answer to this, but my take on this is kind of going back to what you said earlier. I think the reason I give myself a better chance is because I judge myself based on my intentions, whereas I judge others based on what they actually delivered. Now, if I'm working 80 hours this week and I don't get something done, well, it's not my fault my boss didn't give me enough time to get this done. So I give myself credit for having the good intentions of putting in 80 hours this week. Where all I know is Joey didn't deliver. So you don't get any credit, Joey, because you didn't deliver, right? Even though you might have worked 90. I don't know that. So I think it's an interesting survey.
Well, it's not only an interesting survey. I mean, I had never heard that. That's amazing. But you're hitting on a phenomena that affects workplace culture a lot. We do judge people based on intentions. We grade ourselves on our intentions, and we don't give them the benefit of good intentions.
Exactly. So kind of tied into that, if I take a leadership bent on it. So what do you think the biggest gap is between how people think they're leading versus how their team might experience their leadership?
It's a big gap. I've done a lot of surveys on culture, and the leaders will they'll score culture 20 or 30% higher in almost every category than the people do. And I think the biggest and most dangerous gap is when they allow toxic leadership and bad behaviors, they don't call it out and deal with it. And they think, a lot of times it'll be with a big producer, or this person gets a lot of stuff done, and yet nobody wants to work with them. So they make excuses, and I think that's the biggest gap, which destroys credibility. See, leaders run around saying people matter, and then they make an excuse for somebody that's destroying people.
People matter, but not Clint, because he's got his, he's killing it with the clients.
Yeah, the clients love him.
So what's your advice for leaders who know they need to change, but kind of feel stuck in their current ways? Because one of the things I found really impressive about your story was, you, even though you're an introvert, you heard the rumors about trust, and then you took the initiative to go out and talk to each one of those people and make sure you got to know them. So what are some things that other people might be able to do if they feel stuck in their current ways, and how they can make changes?
I think the biggest opportunity, and this is something that we did for all of our team members, is performance coaches. And, a lot of leaders see that as a weakness. So I need a performance coach. Well, actually, that coach is basically all they're doing is holding a mirror up and helping you see the things that we all have blind spots, and they're helping you see how you can be more effective. And even before that point where I had to figure out the trust thing, I had a performance coach that helped me understand a lot more about people and fuzzy agreements and things like that. It moved my career along, and we all get somewhere with sponsorship and advocacy and coaching. And so when a leader can never stop learning and growing. And so I really encourage anybody that thinks they've arrived or thinks they're stuck to think about getting a performance coach.
Okay. I haven't heard that one. For me, it's been beneficial just to read the books of people that I'm interviewing, because I've learned so much through reading these getting ready for the interviews. So like I did with yours.
And yours. Now, I did the same. I read yours, and
I appreciate that.
I feel a lot better about project management now.
It's not all evil. It's not
right. It makes a lot of common sense in there, because I've done a lot of bad project management.
Yeah, I think bad project management is punitive, and I don't believe in punitive. I believe in holistic and team focused and team approach. So, what advice would you give to leaders who inherit a toxic or disengaged culture? Where would they start?
I think you start with being vulnerable enough to own it, that we're not where we want to be, and build some confidential loops of feedback, because nobody's going to feel safe in that environment. So you've got to, one of the things I did is I went and personally met with team members all over the country and in all kind of locations, some one-on-one, some in small groups. But you've got to get that confidential feedback started, lay out a plan, and then be very transparent. I think one of the things that grew trust in our company is when we had an initiative and we were failing at it, we owned it.
Yeah, I think that's important. People, it's more than what you say. It's people just wait, right? Because especially if you're new and you're coming in and the culture is not good, they're like, okay, he said that, but is he really going to follow up? And then to me, it's always once I see the success of you actually did what you said, then they'll start to trust you and believe you.
Yeah, and when you just transparently say, hey, this is what we're trying to do and we haven't made any progress. Here's how we're changing it. We need your help and we need your feedback, and we're going to continue and we're going to report on it again. It makes a difference. People lean in.
Now, you mentioned earlier belonging, and that's one of the things I wanted to touch on before we end the session today. And you said the great leaders create belonging. What are some practical ways that leaders can make their teams feel valued and connected?
It's right to the 3 secrets of magnetic energy, which that's what creates a sense of belonging and starts your trust cycle. You got to believe that people want to succeed. They want to meet your expectations. You've got to trust first. So you're not micromanaging. You got, give people the benefit of good intentions, and they have to know you, and you have to invest in them and knowing them. And when you do that and show appreciation and recognition, people are going to have that sense of belonging. They'll start to make things happen.
So if a leader can only take one principle from leading with significance and apply it tomorrow, what should that be and why?
Connect with your team.
That's an important one. It's the foundation of everything you've talked about.
Got to connect.
What's one leadership lesson you wish you learned earlier in your career?
Well, there was fuzzy agreements. But I wish I'd learned the 3 secrets to magnetic energy. Obviously, I got a long way in a big leadership position and had the opportunity to be in a bigger position and have more impact. But I had not invested in people and forgotten how much people really matter. And I was closed book. I was a closed book. And so that's certainly been my biggest lesson, and I've been trying to share it to inspire others to not make that same mistake.
It's a good one. So as we wrap up, I'm going to ask you 3 questions that I ask everybody. First one is, are there any leadership principles that speak to you personally and guide your day-to-day behaviors?
Finding God's purpose for my life, and I feel like that's what I'm doing. And I think the greatest calling in life is what God has called you to do.
All right. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Seek God's purpose from my dad.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. And what is the best book or article you read recently, and what was the key takeaway?
I'm going to go, even though it's just because I went back and read it some more recently, Simon Sinek's book on infinite mindset is one that I think any leader, really any team member, it's a great read that really gets you focused on the right things.
There's another guy you mentioned a couple times in the book. Got to get it wrong. It's Lencioni. Lencioni, yeah. So you mentioned him a couple times. He must have quite an impact on you as well.
Yeah, Patrick Lencioni and John Gordon. John Gordon got his quote on culture in the book, and he wrote The Energy Bus, and he's got a number of bestsellers, but he's got one coming out that I got the pre-copy on, but it'll be out this month, I believe. And I'm on his early launch team, but it's about team commitment. And I think it's going to be really, really strong. And I'm not deep enough in it yet, to share a specific takeaway, other than the fact, again, that commitment is the difference in being an average team and a great team.
Wow, I couldn't have said that any better. So, Joey, this has really been great, and I really appreciate your time today. If people want to learn more about you and the work you're doing, especially now that as an independent, how can they contact you?
Everything's out there at joeyhavens.com, and you can sign up for the weekly blog there, and you can certainly email me at joey@joeyhavens.com.
All right. Well, thank you for the conversation, Joey.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to The Conversation. To find out more about Clint, go to clintonmpaget.com and pick up Clint's book, How Teams Triumph, Managing by Commitment, at Amazon. The Conversation with Clinton M. Paget is a production of Forbes Books.